Eddy Wajon writes about and fights for Western Australian wildflowers. He formed and chairs the Wildflower Society of WA's Roadside Vegetation Subcommittee, which is trying to preserve trees and shrubs along the West Australian country roads while improving their safety. He looks after 2 bush blocks in the southwest of WA, one of which has been regenerated, leads wildflower walks and hosts wildflower weekends away, surveying and photographing plants and animals. Welcome, Eddy.
How do I work the... Thanks very much, Rachel, for inviting me here. Yes, I'm the founder and the chair of the Wildflower Society of WA's Roadside Vegetation Committee. And before I start my talk in detail, I'd just like to respond to the person who's talking about roadside vegetation. And most of this talk will be about that, so just bear with me a minute. We are working very, very hard to try and preserve those roadsides that you're complaining about. And just like people in the room, I spent 2 years in the last recent times, but much earlier than that. I've had 75 meetings in that time with all sides of government, 5 ministers. The most recent one, I actually called out the Minister for Tourism, because we'd written them a letter about why they are allowing all the roadsides in about 20 or 29 local government shires, wheat belt, southwest, be cleared irresponsibly, unnecessarily and devastatingly. It took 3 months to get a reply. I was in Canberra at the time. I was actually in Canberra meeting with the Minister for Environment, the Minister for Infrastructure, the Shadow Minister for Environment and the Shadow Minister for Infrastructure about destruction of bushland in WA. So I missed the letter that came from the Minister for Tourism. So I then asked the office, where was it? And they said, well, we sent it to you. So I found it. It was 1 page. It said, we have written to the 29 shires to ask what they're doing about their roadsides. And I said to the person on the other end of the phone, that doesn't cut it. That's a cop-out. That's not enough. I've spent the last 2 years doing something and it's got to stop. It has to stop. So that's why I'm here at the last end. So what I'm going to talk about today is some of the wonders that we've got, and then what I've been trying to do to preserve our roadsides, and what hopefully you can also do to join me. Because we have that committee. Who was it that talked about Malcolm, maybe? Or no, it was previous speaker, Tony. We can all work together to get something happen, but we have to work cooperatively. And it's not just you guys in the wheat belt, but there are lots of people in the city who care equally about their land. As mentioned, I own 2 blocks of land. One of them's in, well, both of them in Gondwanaland. They're my heart and soul. I feel I belong to them, not to them to me. Anyway, I'm diverging. So, we've all seen that plant before already in Malcolm's talk, but I'm going to just run you some wonderful photographs of wildflowers along roadsides and other bits of the wheat belt that I've photographed in the last 25 years. And if Malcolm can give a plug for his book, I've got 4 books at the back as well. So why not? We have a wonderful legacy of wildflowers here, and Rachel's got some fantastic photographs here as well. This is just a fantastic exhibit. So if you're out in the wheat belt, you will see these plants. Maybe some dramatic photos, you haven't quite seen them like that, but they are out there. So I'm progressively going to show you less and less of the plant, or less big pictures, because I need to get to the business end of my talk. Some of these you probably haven't even seen. But they are absolutely stunning, stunning. Most of them not in cultivation, you can't go buy them anywhere, but they're out there. A page of hakeas, absolutely beautiful hakeas. This one in the middle is the rare Hakea megalosperma from Mount Lasura. I happen to have access to a property in Warradaji called Golconda. People may know of it. I've been asked to help preserve it and have access to the property, and that plant grows on that property. In fact, that's where that was photographed. I've never seen a red Leschenoltia quite like this. Photographed in Haydn on another property that I have access to, where I'm writing another book, Wildflowers of Haydn. There we go, no names this time. No names, no pack drill, just pretty pictures. All from the wheat belt. And more. So this is what we're trying to preserve. We're trying to preserve those. And a lot of them grow on roadsides. So these are some fantastic roadsides in the wheat belt, or what we might call the wheat belt more generally. Not necessarily right around here, but fantastic roadsides. That's what people came to see in Western Australia 20 to 50 years ago. What they're coming for now, I don't know why they're coming. They're coming for the canola. Yes, I know. I've seen people take pictures of canola and Patterson's curse. I know. And what are they seeing? Roadsides full of love grass, that was mentioned. Absolutely love grass. Or canola along the roadsides. Weeds, 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 weeds. Luckily this year we have had a reasonably good wildflower season. There are lots of people out there, but all they're after is the everlastings. What about the stuff I've just shown? How many of those people are looking for that? There are a handful. But you know, we have some fantastic wildflower roadsides. Flora roads. Some of them used to be called flora roads. Well, I used to be on the Roadside Conservation Committee, which was a government-appointed committee, who decide what flora road should be thought about. Well, many of them that are nominated to shires, they say, no. We want to clear them. This isn't one of my pictures, and I'm not quite sure where it was taken by someone who worked with the Roadside Conservation Committee, but you know, this is what some of our roads used to look like. How many of those are left? We got that instead. And so that top picture is what got me going 2 years ago. Really got me going, because that's in front of my property in Gondwana. And that was clearing done by the Shire of Jerramunga without a clearing permit. A clearing permit that they admitted to me and in writing that they knew they needed a clearing permit for, but they still did it. So you talked about the government's not doing anything. So what happened when I reported this to the Department of Water and Environment Regulation? Okay, we'll go and have an inspection, all right. And then we'll write them a letter and it says, please comply with the law. So they then put in a clearing permit for the whole lot that they already cleared, plus a little bit more they hadn't yet cleared. And so they got a clearing permit for the little bit they hadn't yet cleared. So that's what government does, and this is not an isolated example, I can tell you, because I have reported probably a dozen cases like that. They go out and inspect, write a report, and when I say, what are you doing? We don't have any evidence. And it's too costly to prosecute, and we can't find them. It's not like a traffic fine. I said, get on the books and change the law. So this is closer to home, some pictures from Darwin from Lynn. Lynn Phillips is in the room. Thanks, Lynn, for your photographs. This is happening everywhere at the moment, as I'm sure you know. It is just devastating. This top picture, sorry, go back a bit. This top picture is of the North Bannister Wandering Road, and this is an unusual dryandra. 2 populations only, cleared. And this is the remains, and I can't see what the purpose of that was. And most of this road verge clearing is unnecessary, excessive, and doesn't even do the job that it's meant to do, which I'll get to in a minute. I think this is maybe one of Rachel's pictures. There you go, lovely pictures. Isn't that what we come to see? Just open spaces? I mean, that's what the Japanese like, right? They want open spaces? I don't think so. Now this is a killer. This is some photographs from a recent clearing permit application from the Shire of Corrigan that I have seen and we're commenting on. They want to clear the roadside to 14 metres wide for safety reasons.
Well, safety.
So they want to take out each of those trees on that road. That's what their application is for, to take those trees, that tree, that tree, and that tree. That's going to make the road safer. Can anyone understand why they want to do that?
Yeah, the tree might jump out.
Yes, that's exactly right. Trees are the problem. So this is what now I'm getting to the crux of the matter. The drivers for roadside vegetation clearing. Tier 3 railway line closures. So that means more and more vehicles carrying grain to either the CBH bin or all the way to Kwinana or all the way to Bunbury, because that's much easier. The bin closures don't help, because now farmers have to drive a lot further to where they're going to drop off the grain. And I can understand, you know, efficiencies and all the rest of it, but there's more to it than just efficiency, as Carmen and others were saying. You know, there's quality of life. It's not all about profit. What am I going to spend my money on? You know, I don't want another car or a television or the latest iPhone. I want my bush. That's where I get my pleasure. So what this is meaning is that there's a lot more bigger, heavier vehicles on the road. So of course they need to be bigger, wider, straighter roads, don't they? Because otherwise, you know, you can't drive on a narrow road with a big truck. So they need to be bigger. Then also there are lots of consolidation or expansions of farming, and not all the properties are contiguous. So farmers have to move their big vehicles between, you know, farms. So they have to drive on public roads. Were public roads designed for big farm machinery? Not really, in my opinion. Should be driven inside the paddocks. Let the farmers make their own roads. And apologies to farmers in the road. I might sound a bit anti-farming, and maybe there's a bit of truth in that, but I'm trying to solve the problem. I'm not someone who just throws stones and sticks, and I try and throw, I've said this before in the public forum, I throw gold nuggets. Pick up the ideas that I put along at the same time. So lots of shires are upgrading their roads to cater for these restricted access vehicles, the really, really big vehicles which are otherwise restricted from using certain roads. So they now want to upgrade all roads so that all these big vehicles can use them. Another very big driver, and that's not just in inverted commas, because I'm a driver, road deaths in the wheat belt are a major, major problem. Wheat belt of WA is the most dangerous patch of dirt in the world. We have the highest road death rate in the world per capita. And that's why the government is spending so much money on trying to improve roadsides. And I don't want to die on a road either. So I'm conscious of this as well. But what's then happening is that they're increasing road safety requirements coming out of the Austroads guidelines. Austroads is the non-government organisation, I guess. That's the association of all road authorities in Australia, including WA. So Main Roads, for example, is a member of that. Vic Roads, New South Wales Roads and Maritime Services and all the rest of it. So they produced this book, which cost about $1,000, which is why I don't have a copy, on how to design roads. But a lot of people, especially shires, call them standards. They are not standards, they are guidelines. Even Main Roads has a 60-page book that is their deviations from the Main Road guidelines, how they interpret the guidelines for their use. So they don't have to be followed 100%. If you have a good engineer in the Shire, they should be able to use their experience and knowledge to build the roads that suit the needs for their local environment. But what that's driving is this need for 6 to 8 metre wide recovery zones, often called clear zones, because there's usually nothing in them, but they're not supposed to be clear. They're meant to be recovery for vehicles. That doesn't mean they have to be clear. You can recover a vehicle if you run off the road, even if there's, you know, native grasses or low shrubs or even taller shrubs on the road. And this picture just shows you some of those terms that I've been using here. So why are we so interested in roadsides? For many of you in the audience, I'm sure this will be clear, but there are lots of ecological reasons, because many of the roadsides contain the last remaining stands of our native vegetation, whether it be individual plants or ecological communities. Eucalypt woodlands of the wheat belt are now threatened ecological communities because they've been cut down so much here. These two plants grow only on roadsides. This plant, I've not seen this plant myself, where I've seen those two. This plant, Banksia cuneata and matchstick Banksia, only grows on roadsides. And I think there might only be half a dozen plants of that left, if they're still even there. So that's why the roadsides are so important. Native vegetation also inhibits weeds. I mean, Malcolm said this, as soon as you clear the vegetation, you get the weeds coming. But if there's good quality native vegetation, weeds don't come as easily. There still might be some, but they don't come as easily. Their habitat, the vegetation in the roadsides can often be habitat for threatened fauna, let alone normal fauna. So Carnaby's cockatoos and red-tailed phascogales. These are two of the biggest things that at the moment prevent and cause conditions to be placed on roadside clearing permits. Whenever they find them, they have to provide offsets. We're now saying, don't even let them be cleared, guys. Because once they're gone, they're gone, they're gone. Cockatoos don't read road signs. What are all those cockatoos in Perth going to do that are, there's no Banksia woodland for them? Are they coming up here? Do they read? What about all the orchids? They don't have legs. Where are they going to go? Offsets are just not the end all. They're not a work. That's not a no-let-loss policy. Cleared roadsides also are so prone to erosion. Vegetation holds it all together. I mean, someone's talking about all the new erosion and the flooding that's happening from removal of the trees. Well, what do you expect? They drink the water. They hold the soil together. They prevent erosion. We just need them on there. And then what about the aesthetics? I mean, isn't that why we love the wheat belt? Isn't that why we call that place our home? Those lovely avenues and those salmon gums that are glowing gold in the setting sun. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. That's the York-Quairading Road that they upgraded because it's too narrow. And those salmon had to go. This is the Brookton Highway in Corrigan. Smaller trees, but equally pleasant. So, just to give you a bit of background about why some of this is happening, there's a system called the SAFE system that main roads and most or many road authorities, not just in Australia but around the world, subscribe to. And some of the philosophies are there are known physical limits to the amount of force our bodies can take before we're injured. So what that means in practice is that a human body in a car can actually survive an impact at about 70 kilometres an hour. Yes, they may have a broken bone or some, sore knees or something, but they can actually survive. But once you get more than that, the chances of death increase substantially. So that's one of the guidelines that they use to design roads. Another principle is people will continue to make mistakes. And the transport system, the roads, must accommodate these. In other words, if you're a fool and speeding or drunk, we shouldn't let you die. Okay? If you make a mistake and are silly, the road transport system should not allow you to die. How did those two people die at Morangup Road yesterday? I think they were 16-year-olds. They hit a tree, had a blowout. Were they drinking? I don't know. Were they speeding? They shouldn't have died. Shouldn't have died. The road system's meant to stop that. So, it doesn't matter if you make an error or a mistake, you shouldn't die. So as a consequence, the four foundation stones are, you need safe drivers. Well, I don't think those two drivers or whatever were safe. You need safe speeds, so don't speed. But also don't make the road so you can speed. Because once you start straightening, widening roads, even if you've got a 70 kilometre an hour speed limit on it, you will travel at 110. Because you'll feel like it's safe. You need safe vehicles. And you need safe roads and roadsides. So that's where we come in, because that's where the vegetation is. I could spend more time on that, but just some recent findings of a review of how safe system actions actually work. So what they're finding is that road safety barriers are actually... Do I have much time left? I'm going to take more than that. Can I take more than that? 2.5. Road safety barriers. Road safety barriers. So this is the York-Quairading Road. So that's what it used to look like. That's us being interviewed on ABC TV, and that's what the result of that was. Because Main Road got approval to construct that road because they said they had minimised and avoided every bit of vegetation that they could. When we showed up and said, you should put some road safety barriers there, they saved these ones. So, just community group activated. Reduce speed limits. We have a meeting with the Commissioner of Road Safety in October to talk about helping him reduce speed limits on roads. I now have respect, our committee has a respect from senior government members, but we need people to help and to keep pushing. Wider pavements. My philosophy is once your left wheel goes off the pavement into the gravel, you're in deep shit. So let's widen the pavements. Leave the vegetation, they're not going to kill you. Take a break. Vary the environment. Distraction, fatigue is one of the biggest killers. Mobile phones, tiredness, but not even just tiredness, the kid in the back seat, but particularly mobile phones and distraction. So how do you do it? Okay, you put the road in the paddock, if you can. So this is the new Great Northern Highway around Norcia that's been built that you all probably know about. A lot of Great Northern Highways now being done like that. Bindoon bypass and all sorts of things. That's good. But you can still do more. You can retain that vegetation. We went to visit this guy in Corrigan who has this machine that you can angle his slasher, so you don't have to slash everything. You can vary the height from 200 mil to a metre. You don't have to slash everything. You don't have to remove everything. Widen the seal shoulders, deepen the battens, retain low shrubs at corners and curves, and yet maintain those sightlines. You don't have to clear to bare earth. Keep the stuff. Most of our biodiversity is actually in the shrub layer. The trees, yes, we want to keep, but sometimes that's a problem. Remove the weeds, not the natives. Shit. All I see is weeds on the side of the road. If they can stay, why can't our low shrubs stay? Unbelievable. Realign the table drain around the trees. Retain the trees along the road. They do provide you some sight lines and protection from the setting sun. Examples of good roads. So there are some. So this is in my neck of the woods where we own the property in Tenterden, Kendenup. This road, I thought they were going to clear all those wanderers, but they actually just widened the seal a little bit and reduced the speed limit from 110 to 90. Yeah. It's now bloody fantastic. Someone talked about Caves Road earlier. Wildflower Society has 2 representatives on that subcommittee. I wasn't invited because I'm too strong and I'm too far away. But I have 2 reps who I have been advising, and we have said no widening. No widening. No answer, no widening. There's no need. Reduce the speed limit. Another one, I've travelled recently to our other property in Boxwood Hill, they're now under up Broom Hill Road. That's exactly what they did. They just put some new seal on the edges of the road. Perfect. They left the trees. Why can't you all do that? Kewitt Drive, Capel. Okay, that was an old road, beautiful road. I won't go into more detail. Here you go. What you can do. You can be silly like me and get on the TV. Margaret Owens and John Salmon. He was the one that alerted to us. He owns a property in York. So you prepare a submission or appeal a clearing permit. Get onto the Wildflower Society's Facebook page. Tell us what you've seen. If you don't want to report it yourself, we'll do it for you. Take pictures. We'll get in touch with the department. But you could get in touch with the media. You can call the newspaper or the TV. Complain to your local government authority. I know some of you are, but I know they're not listening, are they? They're not listening. They don't want to know. They really don't want to know. But form another more residential college group and go speak to your local government. Complain to your local member. I'm sure the more residential college thing came from a federal initiative. Somebody was calling their federal member. Demonstrate if you dare. But then have a meeting with those people. Actually talk to them. We have found that that's probably the most effective thing. Talk to the designer of the road and try and give them evidence for what they can do and how it works. So talk to your local government, talk to Main Road if you dare, have a meeting with your minister, though you're rarely going to meet the minister, you'll meet a flunky. They might give the message. Have a site visit, document your special areas so you know what you're talking about. Then you personally can do some planting. Malcolm's already said this, but don't just plant trees, plant shrubs, understory, the works. Plant it on your property, plant it on someone else's property, get it to plant on the roadside. Thank you.